Dr. Sarah Hill, and I have a lot of titles. Wife, mom, therapist, professor, daughter, writer, friend, and of course, lupus warrior. Today, I'd like to spend a few minutes with you talking about something I think a lot about both professionally and personally, and that's self-image. People often come to therapy asking themselves, who am I? And many lupus warriors find themselves asking, who am I with lupus? Being diagnosed with lupus changed my entire life. I quickly realized that my journey included not only physical challenges and treatment, but also involved a complex emotional breaking, shifting, and healing. Let's touch on how we can answer our question, who am I with lupus, with 3 approaches: grief, acceptance, and discovery. Let's start with grief. When I was first diagnosed in 2018, it was the answer to a decade-long mystery of what was happening to my body. My first feeling was a sense of validation because I knew something was wrong, and I had been saying so to doctors for years. And my second reaction was hope. In retrospect, I can now see it was a kind of naive hope that I had, but it was hope. I thought the answer would bring a solution, and even though they told me this was an incurable lifelong disease, I was convinced that I would be better in a few months. That was probably my brain trying to protect me from the scary reality that I was facing. But a miracle didn't come in a few months or even years. Instead, I experienced loss after loss. Roles I loved doing in my community, my energy, social activities, my mobility, my physical ability, my organ function, and even my appearance. My hair started to fall out. I developed sores and bruises on my body. My eye would swell shut whenever I had a flare. And then when I was put on steroids to stop my rapidly declining kidney function, I developed the stereotypical moon face, a buffalo hump, and gained over 100 pounds in less than a year. I, like many of you, look in the mirror and I do not recognize the person I see looking back at me right now. That would be startling to anyone, but to feel like a stranger in your own body in the midst of fighting an incurable, cruel disease can feel like too much. And that's where the grief comes in. It is a lot. It is painful. It is heartbreaking. Before we even think about figuring how to scale yet another mountain and addressing this change in appearance, it's important to first validate our experience and to grieve. The loss of your vitality, ability, functioning, hair, skin, your appearance, or even the life you hoped for or the life you thought you'd have. It's just that. It's a true, real, and painful loss. And just as we grieve the loss of a person, we can grieve the loss of these things that have been foundational to how we understand ourselves. So how do we grieve? We acknowledge what we lost. We allow ourselves to feel the unfairness of it all. We cry, we mourn, we scream, we journal, we pray. If anyone has pushed you into being positive or hopeful without giving you space to grieve, I would like to apologize on their behalf for their imperfect response and to tell you that it's okay to be sad and angry and scared and whatever else you feel. Many people do not know the unimaginable world shaking of living with a chronic life-altering illness, and so they don't understand. Find others who do understand so that they can grieve with you too. The second part to consider is perhaps the most difficult, and that is acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation or enjoyment or permission. Acceptance means to accept reality as it is. That's it. I accept that right now I weigh 260 pounds. I accept that right now I have to take medication. In our society, we don't like acceptance. We like conquering. We like control. We like change. And I'm not telling us to roll over and play dead. I'm telling us to stop fighting realities so that we can redirect that energy to doing something about it. If I were a runner and I broke my ankle, I could fight acceptance by continuing to run as if I had no energy or injury. I would likely further injure myself, and when I finally stopped running, the break would be an even bigger problem to face. If I acknowledged that I have hurt myself, even though I really don't want it to be true, I can redirect my energy to adjusting my life to accommodate my injury and then focus on my healing. The most difficult and drastic of my outward physical changes has been my weight, and I have found myself unable to wear any of the clothes that I love. As a lover of fashion, this was a very hard thing for me. So I took up sewing as a creative outlet and found myself saving my prettiest fabric for when I was skinny again. And as someone who talks about radical acceptance for a living, I was convicted that I was rejecting this body and refusing to show it love. And as someone who preaches body positivity and self-love, I was doubly convicted. Again, our society doesn't like acceptance. It's not in our nature. We often demand perfection and have a rigid definition of what that perfection is. And so instead, we try to shame and berate ourselves, hoping that will lead to the change that we want. And then we're surprised when it doesn't. Or we're surprised when we achieve the ideal and we can't shake the self-hatred that got us there. But acceptance and change are not mutually exclusive. I can love my body now and dress her beautifully and treat her well because she deserves it. She doesn't have to earn my love and compassion. It doesn't have to look a certain way before I choose to adorn her and show her tenderness. And that love and compassion can serve as a safe place for my body to heal, to grow, to change, or to don't change. And I can use my energy to not restrict my self-perception to what I see on the outside of me. Which leads to the last point, discovery. Did you know that forest fires are actually beneficial to the ecology in which they happen? The fires destroy that which threatens to stop the growth of the tree. I'm not here to tell you that everything happens for a reason. That is not this kind of talk. Instead, I'm very interested, though, in the fact that in the wake of the fire of this trauma, lupus, just like in nature, there is an opportunity for growth. You don't have to have a pretty story or healing or your journey tied up in a bow to find the beauty in living your life right now, in the middle. We don't have to wait until, right? What is there to love about yourself and your life right now in this moment? All of what you've lost has been taken away. Those things were a part of you, but they were not you. They didn't make up the whole of who you are. So what is left? If it feels like everything around you has been burned to the ground, what withstood the heat? Was it your relationships, your humor, your joy, your spirituality, your wisdom, your faith, your empathy, your self-love? When all my roles were taken away by this illness, I quickly realized that what I was left with was anxiety. It was hard for me to receive help, and I found myself really enjoying my role as the helper and despising being in the role of helpee, especially for such an extended period of time. And in sifting through that mental anguish, I learned the hard truth was that I found my worth and identity in the things that I could do. And when I experienced a loss of what I could do through such quick and profound disability, I began to question my self-worth and my identity. And so I started with grieving. I mourned what I lost. I continue to mourn what I lost. I accepted my limitations and I accepted help. And I looked around to take stock of what was left. An appreciation for little things emerged as I realized how quickly things can be taken away. A passion for creativity served a dual purpose with my sewing of a low mobility distraction and a way to make beautiful clothes that actually fit my body. And an ability to pivot arose with a clearer understanding of who I am outside of what I can do. I can't dance anymore. Sometimes I can barely walk. So I close my eyes and I choreograph in my head. I'm still a dancer in my heart. I can't be the room mom or the class coordinator for my son's class or my daughter's co-op, but I can send the teacher encouraging messages and gift cards. I'm still an encourager. I can't drive my kids to school, but that doesn't make me any less of a mom. Instead, I focus on how grateful I am to be and have built a community that shows up for me time and time again, just like I've shown up for them. I can't drive to my beautiful office anymore, but I can do telehealth. I'm still an excellent therapist. It's who I was meant to be. My weight, knees, and the severe swelling in my body don't allow me to exercise in the way that I always have, so I had to pivot and I bought a recumbent bike and I stretch in the bathtub. I'm still alive. I still care for this body. It's still worthy. I have learned new ways to do my makeup, new ways to wrap my hair, and I've even embraced being fully bald at one point. I have discovered people to be much more gracious than I expected in their response to me. I've had people have strong reactions, especially when I use mobility aids in public. I have found it helpful to have something short to say to them, and more importantly, some truth to say quietly to myself. For example, to them I might say, I have lupus, which is an autoimmune disease where my body attacks itself. I'm on a lot of medications, and the lupus and the medications impact my ability to walk. And then I say to myself, Sarah, you and your body are working very hard at healing. So what's left in you? I encourage you to consider your body with compassion and tenderness, not an enemy that is against you, but the vessel that has endured the trauma with you. You do not owe anyone an explanation or an apology for what your body can or cannot do, or what it does or does not look like. There is no time or room for shame. You have the right to grieve what you have lost. You are strong enough to accept it and to take daily steps to do what you can when you can, as you walk or crawl toward what healing means for you. And as you do that, allow yourself the space to grieve, to take stock of what has been destroyed by the illness, what has been illuminated, and to realize that you are more than your body. You are whole and beautiful and worthy, and you are a warrior. Thank you for listening. I wish you the best.